In order to take a flat field image, the easiest thing is to take an image of the twilight sky right after sunset. And you want to point the telescope about a little more than 90 degrees away from the sun, so just past overhead, away from the sun, is a good evenly illuminated light source. And what you want to do is set up a sequence of exposures that are going to capture the sky at the same brightness. What's happening is the sky is getting darker as time goes by, especially if your camera takes more than a few seconds to read out. And so you don't want to take the same exposure each time, because it'll get darker and darker and your values in the background of the image will go down. So what we've done, if you go to sequence, we've named a sequence flats, and if we go to options, set up sequence, you can see here that we've got a sequence of 6 flats, and that each one is a little bit longer than the previous one. So that as the sky gets darker, the counts in the background of the image will stay the same. And make sure the binning is set to 1, because you're going to apply those to your normal images, which are binned one by one. And repeat is set to 1 on each of these, because we're just doing one of each different duration. Hit OK. Now, to figure out when you should start taking that sequence, go to focus, take a single 1-second exposure, and that will give you the current value of the background of the sky. So what we do is, this image is completely saturated because the sky is still too bright, but we're going to draw a small subframe just in the middle of the picture. It's important that it is in the middle of the picture. Set to continuous and start to take exposures. And then go to your information window, set it to area, and that'll tell you the brightness of the image. And you can see right now it's 65,535, which means it's completely saturated. But as the sky starts to get darker, those values will start to drop. And once they get down to around 20 or 25,000 counts, that's when you want to start your sequence. So you can see the values starting to drop as the sky gets darker. 33,000, 32,000, 31,000. And when this gets down to about 25,000 counts or so, we're going to go back to our sequence. Oops. To stop the focus first. And then go back to our sequence. And start the sequence. And that will get you your flat field images. We have here an image of M13 that shows the effects of vignetting. That's the darkening of the corners of the images due to the optical system. And what we'd like to do is get rid of that to have a nice evenly illuminated background. And the way we do that is with a flat field. A flat field is basically an image of an evenly illuminated light source. And so if we look at the flat field we have here, you can see the vignetting of the optical system is causing the corners to be dark here, even though this was an image of a perfectly evenly illuminated light source, in this case the twilight sky. And if we go back to our image of M13 and we apply the flat by going to Process, Set Calibration, and we've got it set to calibrate a flat, hit OK, go to Process, Calibrate, and what will happen is that it's going to overcorrect. So instead of the corners being evenly illuminated or even dark, they're now bright. And that is obviously not what we're looking for. So the way to fix that is by applying a bias frame as well as a flat. So let's undo that. A bias frame is just a zero length exposure that detects only the inherent read noise of the camera. Here's an example of a bias frame. So if we apply the bias and the flat to M13, we should have a nice evenly illuminated background. So we'll go to Process again, set calibration, and this time we're going to tell it to calibrate bias, calibrate flat, and bias subtract flats. Hit OK. Come up to Process again, hit Calibrate, and we should see a nice evenly illuminated background like that.